KKC heroes, Professor Sangamita Mohanty, Professor Michelle Kotadowski, and dear participants. Welcome to the second day of 25th International Symposium on Frontiers of Research in Space and Music, FRSM 2020, organized by the Department of Computer Science and Engineering of NIT Silchar, Assam, and Sir C. V. Raman Center for Physics and Music, Jadavpur University, Kolkata. Good morning to one and all present here in virtual mode. Moving on towards our first keynote session, let us have the pleasure to listening to the honorable and great speaker, Professor Sangamita Mohanty. It is my privilege to introduce Professor Sangamita Mohanty. Professor Sangamita Mohanty is the former president of Orissa Vigyan Academy under the Department of Science and Technology, Gautam, Orissa. The former professor and the head of computer science at Utkal University and former vice chancellor of North Orissa University. Her fields of research are artificial intelligence, speech processing, image processing, natural language processing, etc. Professor Mohanty has 13 intellectual property rights, language technology solutions. More than 180 of her research papers have been published in international journals and conference proceedings. Professor Mohanty has guided 72 students for their masters, including 11 for PhD. Professor Mohanty has successfully completed several major research projects of UGC and JT, Government of India. She has visited different countries, namely Italy, USA, United Kingdom, Japan, Nepal, Korea, Egypt, Sweden, and UAE for academic participations and collaborations. She is recognized, awarded, and felicitated by the many organizations and institutions. The prestigious Samantha Chandrasekhar Award 2012 for her contribution to the engineering and technology being one among those. Professor Mohanty has been conferred with Doctor of Science by Ramadevi Women's University for her contributions to science and technology. She is the Fellow of Women Engineering Society, United Kingdom, and honorary member of National Academy of Science, India. She acts as program committee member for different international conferences, referees to different international journals, and expert member in UNESCO Prize and project selection of United Nations. She was also the director of School of Women Studies of Utkal University from 2009 to 2011. Now, may I request you, Madam, to kindly start your keynote talk. Madam, please.
Thank you, Madam. I'm audible?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, Anupam, and thank you, Madam. It is really a great pleasure on my part to be the FRSM 2020 virtually though. I really miss. I had a plan to go to Silchar to see where Professor Bandyopadhyay is working, but this time it couldn't happen. Anyhow, I may be visiting sometimes else, to particularly to visit the Kamakya temple.
Yes, sure.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Here I have the opportunity to share my mind about some of the items that I think is of greater importance. As I mentioned yesterday, in the field of artificial intelligence, which is getting hype, now I say it is getting hype because the research is something else, and we see that, as I mentioned, the speech is not being discussed in that way in the industry, because I think they have not yet understood what speech is and how they can utilize it. I was just delivering a talk where everything will be controlled by Internet of Things, IoT, and those will be controlled by Internet, those will be controlled by wireless. And what will happen when we control it by speech or voice, and if there is a spam? So the result will be that when I want to give a voice command to close my door, the voice command will may be misinterpreted and will close somebody else's door. And when I will ask my room to be opened or closed, then somebody else's room will be opened. So here, if there is a virus, so here what I observe, it is having a lot of interrelations with the speech, because ultimately we are going to speech to speech. And because people have no time to write, people have no right to give tick or click somewhere, so they will just be passing a comment, and that too, that comment will be very small, like hi, he. These are not correct English words, but now we are accustomed with that. So like yup, nup, and we are telling that. So here, speech is having a greater role to control our life in the future decades. So when I go for it, the other thing that I see that it has a greater role to play in threat intelligence. Means identifying the person who is going, or the program which is going to create some noise in the network system. So it does have a great scope, but my presentation will be something specific to this speech. This time I have selected to speak about speech recognition, and how we have converted to real language, and how we are able to uh, summarize this, because my speech, when I want to show, it should be in a summarized form, and if it is needed. So I'll be talking about extractive summarization of continuous speech using ORIA automatic speech recognition system. It has two different units. Summarization is recalled that it is under an LLP, and ASR is under speech. But here I will show you, because my purpose is that someone will speak, and if it will be recognized, and that will be the text will be converted to text, the text will be summarized, and that will be uttered through text to speech system. It is a complex system. I have all my things in my different places, but I could not integrate it because of this pandemic. I'm dealing with my official uh, laptop, but my own research computers are not under my control. So I have tried to collect some of the information either and either, and to present something, so that I hope the participants will have the flavor. And if time permits or scope permits, I can show them by running. My speech will have the introduction to those particular that I have nearly covered. Then speech HMM model that we use as a speech recognition engine. Bit about language model that I'll tell. Then feature extraction, which features is that is MFCC feature that we have considered. Then summarization of the speech. I'll show the result. And particularly, this is special for ORIA language, and you will see the accuracy that it is giving. Then I will summarize it. Then the results I will be making a conclusion by doing the comparison. So if I say it is a general description, speech is the most natural and effective communication technique among the human beings. This spoken natural combination is having high importance in today's era. I have already expressed this, and we will be utilizing this through HMM and summarization engine. And I have also mentioned that it will be for ORIA language, and we will be giving the output in terms of text to speech engine. Now, a little bit saying about, because it is a varied group of speakers, I can just say that we are using this hidden Markov model speech recognition or recognizer engine, where mostly this probability theory of Bayesian rules are being used, where we consider a model in our language model, a sentence and part of a sentence, like small sentences from that, or words. We convert it to different type of databases, and accordingly we make the matching and get the result. Because when I express it here, it says about the language model and the long sentence and the model sentence that I'm considering. This is the same hidden Markov model that we are considering. The probability of that all from all Q, I get I, and from all W, we get Q, all those dependency of different situations that is occurring, particularly in the speech utterance. And this is to be dynamic enough and will be consuming less time so that it will be effective, because we are applying it to continuous speech recognition system. This is the language model that I mentioned. Main thing is whatever may be the number of words, the combination of length of the sentence, combination of words, from that I will be trying to extract in terms of small sentences, in terms of words. Now, this is the language model that we see. We have used the CMU, Carnegie Mellon University's language model, which is on list dependent. This is the output table that I'm having, because this is Linux based and I'm operating from Windows. And if you see, it says about the n-gram model, and we have used to n up to 3, means 3 words combinations. And about the MEL MFCC, that is the measurable frequency capsular coefficient, we have considered this equation, and and I think in my earlier talks also I have told about MFCC, because MFCC now has been dominated by GFCC, so it is you can call the inverse of spectral coefficients, and it is within the measurable frequency range. And we consider this for our feature extraction, and we have considered for 13 parameters, and with that we feed it to our system engine. And next, the output, when I get it, we just feed it to the summarization for depending upon the corpus. To prepare the speech corpus, this is actually a challenge to us, because people do not have much time to speak and sit with you and speak. Because online also we couldn't start, it is just ongoing project or work. We have just tried to use the students, and from 80 students of both genders, female and male. And in this recording session, volunteers are seated at a table, and those who are giving their voice, they are seated at a table with a noise cancellation unidirectional headphone connected to laptop or desktops and required to speak into headphone. This is our method of extraction, because we are not having soundproof room now. And the students' computer laboratories and hostels are used as recording environment for spoken data collection. And spoken data are collected in the domain feedback relating to various academic activities, mostly domain specific. We have accepted it for or developed this for domain specific case, and that is how the recognition is become a little bit easier, but we can't just mix any domain now. So when we feed it to our computer, we are also trying to record it through different type of manufacturers' computers, because that also creates some noise and additional noise in it. So to make it more versatile, we have also considered different type of brands of computers. Then we have used Pratt software, and that is manage the speech received over the microphone. And Pratt, everybody must be using. It is quite helpful and cooperative also, and freely available. And we have recorded it with 16,000 hertz and 16 bit and mono channel. Then the recorded files are stored in the form of wave format. Now, this is the thing that we have done for collection and preparation of the speech database, rather domain specific speech database. Then we apply our engine and we try to recognize it. And I will just show, this is particularly a small demonstration for English, because that was there with my laptop. But Oriya also the same way we have done it, because we have modified it to Oriya. This is the thing that generally the recorded thing that I have collected. It is in for Oriya, and the folders with different people that we have collected, and the model that it is running. And this is actually the sentences that are being corrected, and we modify. Only 3 mistakes are there in the particular thing. So it is here when we converted it, we get very small error, and this was particularly for and so this is about because it was running under Linux, I couldn't show it here. This is a recorded thing that we could see. Then particularly about the Oriya, this in this way we have done it. This is the output, which says recognition output. Corona virus ଆମ ଦେଶରେ ତାଣ୍ଡବ ରଚେଇଛି, ବହୁତ ଲୋକ ଏଥିରେ ଆକ୍ରାନ୍ତ ହେଲେଣି ଆମ ଦେଶରେ, ଏଥିରେ ଆମ ଦେଶର ଅର୍ଥନୀତି ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଭାବରେ ଭୁଷୁଡ଼ି ଯାଇଛି, ଏହା ଆମ ଦେଶର ଲୋକମାନେ ବହୁତ ଅସୁବିଧାର ସମ୍ମୁଖୀନ ହୋଇଛନ୍ତି, ବହୁତ ଲୋକ ଚାକିରି ହରାଇଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ଦିନକୁ ଥରେ ଥାଇ ଖାଇବାକୁ ପାଉନାହାନ୍ତି. Like that, it is doing very good recognition, and actually we have mapped it to the one of the windows or this interpretation to the Oriya.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am. Your slides is not visible, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Let me show it again.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible now, ma'am.
This I'm showing about the Oriya output that from the speech database that we have collected. It is very good result. It says, I'm reading it. It is written phonetically because this is Linux output and we have to convert it to our own TTS system, and nothing is now integrated. That's why it says coronavirus ଆମ ଦେଶରେ ତାଣ୍ଡବ ରଚାଇଛି. I think all can follow it if I speak it slowly. ବହୁତ ଲୋକ ଏଥିରେ ଆକ୍ରାନ୍ତ ହେଲେଣି ଆମ ଦେଶରେ, ଏଥିରେ ଆମ ଦେଶର ଅର୍ଥନୀତି ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଭାବରେ ଭୁଷୁଡ଼ି ଯାଇଛି, ଏହା ଆମ ଦେଶର ଲୋକମାନେ ବହୁତ ଅସୁବିଧାର ସମ୍ମୁଖୀନ ହୋଇଛନ୍ତି. Like that, it's most of the sentences are coming very perfectly. Then before we integrate it to text to speech, to utter it, we have just made the summarization. And we have done this summarization as per our method that we see. I'll just come to that. And this is recognition part. We see that sentence accuracy, we calculate it. And sentence accuracy for the ASR is 89% and 77%, and word level accuracy is 89% with our engine. And when we go for the summarizer, we just take the output that I showed you for automatic speech recognition of Oriya language. Then we try to convert it to our speech recognizer of Rogue. Then we calculate the rank matrix and converted it. And I think rather this is the output. If you consider the thing that I uttered, the output of the summarization text, which can be converted to text to speech. ଏହା ଆମର ଦେଶରେ ଲୋକମାନେ ବହୁତ ଅସୁବିଧାର ସମ୍ମୁଖୀନ ହୋଇଛନ୍ତି. It is the summarized part. କରୋନା ଭାଇରସ ଆମ ଦେଶର ଶିକ୍ଷା ଅନୁଷ୍ଠାନରେ ପାଠ ପଢା ମଧ୍ୟ ବଡ ବାଧା ଦେଇଛି. ମାନେ it is the full text. It has converted to a small piece, and the whole page that I showed you has been converted to these two major lines, which says that about number of words in the context is 185 here, and which has been converted to 50. This is how the summarization works. Only thing that I couldn't show you that this is to be converted to text to speech conversation, and we are already having having the engine for that, and that will show the content in the Odia language. So this can be applied. It's a very generic application because most of our Odia language, Indian languages are phonetic based, and we write it linearly and non-linear, but read it linearly. And that is how we can. It is not difficult for us to convert it to phonetic form, which can be mapped to the text to the speech. That is why this can be used as a particular background, and with this the main engine, we can do it for other Indian languages also, because like Bengali, Assamese, Hindi, they are more or less very nearer to Odia language in terms of the scientific analysis of the language, because every language is having a pure consonant and a vowel. The duration of the vowel for language to language is differs, and the way we convert the mouth cavity to utter the vowels is also specialty. Like if I say K-A-B-I-T-A, in Oriya we say Kabita, but if you speak it in Bengali, though it is K-A, they will utter it the first vowel as Kavita. So that doesn't mean that K-O-B-I-T-A is to be written. So these things, few parameters we have to take into consideration, particularly accept, then we can apply it to any Indian language. Not South Indian, I'm not saying, because I have not done analysis of the South Indian languages. But for North Indian languages, with very small specific input, we have tried that. This is our analysis of the summarization from the speech that we converted to text. Then that text is summarized, which is to be mapped to the text to speech. And in conclusion, I like to say that we named it as an extractive speech-based summarization, and is carried out in academic environment. It is not robust. It is carried out in an academic environment. If we can have a strong database, online database, and let us say from telephone or different type of speech database collection, then we can apply this and we can judge it. As I have already mentioned, that for speech recognition, it is 89% and word level and 77% sentence level accuracy we could get with automatic speech recognition. And we have applied for the summarization, which is also quite effective. We have calculated the F-score, etc. That is quite satisfactory. Then I agree or say that the rule tools are being used particularly to measure the quality of the recall and precision because it is openly available for us, and these are the references. And if anyone is having any question, this much I want to say, because it is an ongoing work, and I hope the young people will be inspired to use this type of thing, develop it for their own language. Thank you. Any question? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Any question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am, for sharing your deep knowledge about extractive summarization of continuous speech using Odisha ASR with us, ma'am. So your session was full of enthusiasm, ma'am, and valuable knowledge. So now house is open for question answer. So participants, if you have any question, any queries, kindly ask madam.
Hello.
Any queries? Kindly.
Actually, people must not have come. It is too early.
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am. A question. It's a nice work. What are the tools that you used for ASR and for TTS?
It is the ASR system. We have developed our own engine. Only HMM is the mathematical background. The features are MFCC. And TTS is HMM, and we have developed it already. These products are there with us, which has been uploaded also in the Government of India website. Now we have integrated it, doing speech summarization. In speech, I converted to text. Then that text is converted, summarized. Then it is uttering. I am doing it piecemeal, but I'm not able to show it here because I'm not having the whole system. I'm talking from my home.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, most welcome. Oh, Samudra Vijay sir.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So I have not so much familiar with summarization, but for human, we see some summarized, what they say, document. Sometimes one say it's good, but some other say not good. So summarization evaluation is rather difficult, I think. Could you have a comment on that?
Yes, actually, we just go for the precision calculation, F score, etc., and that says how it is. Actually, if I could have converted it to English, Oriya language, you could have seen the fonts. Then actually, it is very good summarization. Very important things, sentences it has calculated, and we have actually different type of summarization techniques. And like bag of words, many method, and we have put one hybrid system, means mixture of all these three, and like stop word removal, all those things were taken into consideration because I have already done summarization for our language. So that part, it gives a very good result and set score. I'm not having the result with me now to show, because I say I work, means my student, myself, and my home, we are in 3 places. My office in one place, and we are not able to meet, so I am not able to show it. It is already a piecemeal work that I am showing, but result is very good. If you say I can show it, read it for you, it has selected a very appropriate sentence towards the summarization.
Okay, thank you very much.
Our purpose is to collect the speeches of the leaders, netas, and summarize it and show it to people. That is the purpose for which we are working. Thank you, sir, to see you after such a long time.
Yeah.
Virtually.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Participants, any questions? Any more questions? Kindly. Any questions? Ma'am, I think so. There is no questions. Yes.
Okay.
So once again, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Most welcome. I
Yes,
think much of the students have not joined. If they have any question after that, then you can ask me. Mail me through you. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Professor Basu. Everybody.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not Basu, Vishwas.
Vishwas.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have Anupam Basu. Vishwas. So nice to meet you all. I'm
Yes,
happy.
ma'am. Ma'am, thank you. We are looking forward for the same support in our future events as well, ma'am.
Sure. Sir, I'll be very happy to help you.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Participants, we can have a short break. After 5 minutes, we'll assemble here. Thank you so much.
After Assamese tea.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so nice of you. I'm taking leave. I'll be joining a little bit late.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Anupam sir? Anupam sir? Professor Michel, are you ready, sir?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay. So we'll start, sir. Anupam sir?
Yes, Malaya madam, please proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So welcome back to the second day of second keynote session of FRSM 2020. It is my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Michel Kozudowski. Dr. Michel is the head of Future Internet Services Department at Poznan Supercomputing and Networking Center. In his research, he studies applications of advanced ICT for supporting people with special needs. This relates especially to such areas as e-health, telemedicine, assistive technologies, e-inclusion. For the last 10 years, Dr. Michel has been the principal investigator of several international projects in those areas, like uses of advanced ICT in supporting the needs of older adults, in assisting people with profound intellectual and multiple disabilities. Dr. Michel has participated as a key research team member in a number of other international and national projects related to, for example, application of telemedicine in trauma, mobile technologies for people with intellectual disabilities, and active and assisted living solutions, where he often served as the technical coordinator. Now, may I request you, sir, to kindly start your keynote session. Over to Dr. Michel, sir. Sir, kindly.
Okay, I hope my presentation is visible. Can you please confirm that this is the case? Okay, thank you very much. So thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak at this conference. What I will be talking today about is one area of application of all the, I would say, speech or maybe sound recognition that we have been hearing about throughout this conference. This speech or sound recognition is part of the technologies that is used in a solution that that we are building, and that is aimed at supporting people with profound intellectual and multiple disabilities, so that these people can interact with their surroundings, with other people. This particular research that I'll be talking about, we are conducting within a project funded by the European Union within the Horizon 2020 program, research and innovation program. And we are doing this with within a group of 6 partners from 4 countries. We have 3 technological partners here, 2 specialized in specific areas, the institute from Slovenia in artificial intelligence specializes here, this team in artificial intelligence. Then we have a team from Spain that specializes in computer vision. So the things that I will be talking about, I will be touching upon during this talk, they are the authors of that, or most of that. And then my team, we are responsible for putting all these technologies together into a working system, working solution. And then we have also 3 domain partners, as I like to say. So these are people who help us to understand the challenge ahead and help us to understand how to build this ICT technology so that it does what we hope it would do. So this is a scientific foundation on the special education, so pedagogical scientists from Heidelberg, the practitioners who deal with care for people with intellectual disability on an everyday basis from the local here in Poznań, in Poland, association NATAC, and then a company who creates, distributes, also produces some of the assistive technology, so that in the end we want this kind of solutions to be part of the market. Now, one of the things that I should probably start with is to explain to everybody who people with profound intellectual and multiple disabilities, or PIMD for short, are. So what is this disability? So this disability is a profound intellectual disability, which means that the IQ of these people is below 20, and we are in fact unable to measure what it is exactly, right? Because there is no tool to measure IQ below 20. Then this is combined with other disabilities, motor disabilities, sensory disabilities. So these people often have all kind of other disabilities as well. What this results in is that they usually are unable to use any verbal language. They are unable to use any symbols, so they are on the pre-symbolic level. And what they are able to do is they are able to use unconventional behavioral signals, right? And of course, in principle, they need support all the time, right, until the end of their lives, throughout their lives, and their participation in community and society is, of course, very, very difficult. What the reason for these impairments is either genetic, right? So there are some genetic syndromes that result in this kind of disability, or it's cerebral palsy, right? So this is the case. What is more challenging even in these people is that their brains are completely reorganized. So you don't really know where which of the parts of the brain is where, right? So in our brains, speech is always in the same. This part of brain which is responsible for speech is always in the same place. In their brains, we don't know where it is, right? So that also prevents us from using any other techniques that could even analyze what's happening with the brain. Now, what does it mean that they are unable to use symbols, and what does it mean that then their interaction is non-symbolic? So basically, people with intellectual disabilities who are unable to use verbal language, they use symbols. This may be symbols written on or used on such devices as you have on the right of the screen, which are some kind of electrical digital boards with some graphical symbols written on the keys, right? So they can press the key or the button, and then something is, let's say, said, right? This might be paper-based symbolic representations of some words, and down to physical objects like you see here, orange, or you can imagine a mug when someone asks or tries to tell that they are thirsty. So all this, which is called augmentative and alternative communication means, for people with intellectual disabilities, this is not available to most of people with PIMD. So these people are unable to use symbols, right? So their interaction is non-symbolic. So what do? They react to what's happening around them with gestures, facial expressions, and vocalizations. They also are able to look at a certain object or I don't know, person, right? So this is also some indication that they are interested in this particular person or object. But the primary behaviors are gestures, facial expressions, and vocalizations. And all these signals are very individual. So each person has a different set of gestures, facial expressions, and vocalizations that they are using in meaningful interactions with others. So that makes it even more challenging to do anything. And as an example of what these might be, we have a boy here with us, working with us, who is nearly 9 years old, and the signals he uses in his interactions are gestures, like you have here, like his body goes jerky in some specific moments, or floppy, which is more evident when you look at his head or arms. He may flex or raise arms, he may flex or raise legs. Then he uses eyes, like closing them or semi-closing, widening. He raises eyebrows, or he what the parents would say, he smiles, which is he makes the corners of his mouth go up, or he makes a frown expression. And then he uses 7 different types of vocalizations. Well, he might be using more, but these 7 are, let's say, more often used. And these are very, very individual to him, right? So some of those are what I hope you will be able to hear later on during a short clip. Now to complete the picture of how this non-symbolic interaction looks like, is that, as you can imagine, if this is a reaction to what is happening around, so this can be one of the 3. So we can like the situation, what happening around us, or want it to be on, right? Accept this situation. We can not like it. We don't want it. So these people might disapprove this, or there is something that, yeah, I noticed this, but I don't know what it is, what is my attitude. And this is exactly what happens in these people, right? So this is what we are able to say. So we can only say that they are pleased or displeased with the situation, or of course might be neutral. So then we can say more or less about the behavioral state. But sometimes we can also distinguish that this is a communication attempt. So they are trying to tell us that they demand something or they protest against something. or basically comment, right? Something specific. So when something very specific is happening around them. So this is something that you have about these people. And now, when you look at this, so what was my goal in this project was that we tried to design and develop an ICT platform that would enable these people with this kind of disability to interact with their surroundings, right? With surroundings, including other people, but also anything else that you might basically like the room, let's say, or whatever happens around them, and as a result, to have their ability to self-determination increased, right? Because today they completely rely on whatever the caregivers are able to see or hear and do, right? So they are unable to do anything without any ICT. And in principle, what that means is that we need to look at what is happening around these people, and in parallel, we need to recognize those non-symbolic behavioral signals that they have. So we have to put this context and these signals together. When you put this together, you have sort of an intention of what these people might want to do next, right? Because we are talking about ICT, and we have this in digital form, right? So this intention is, or decision of the person with PIMD is in digital form. Then you can transfer this passage to any sort of, let's say, other digital service that can do something for them, right? So that would be an assistive digital service or assistive application, and that would then do something in the surroundings again, so would influence somehow the situation. I will show this on some examples later on. So this is what we are trying to achieve, and for that we are building the technology, and this in this platform. So what you would have? You would have a bunch of sensors around the person with PIMD, around this end user of this platform, this system. So cameras, microphones, of course, because facial expressions, gestures, and vocalizations, right? You have to see and hear this, and possibly other sensors that might help to get some information about these people or about the context, right? So you analyze all this, you analyze the context, you analyze the behaviors, right? You get into the decision, and once you have this decision as in the interpretation of these behaviors, as the intent of this user to do something, then you can do something with this in fact and pass it to the applications that do something for these people or on behalf of these people. Okay, now if you really start digging into this problem or challenge, then you come up with a really complex ICT system, like you see here on the picture. This is very detailed architecture where each component is depicted by one box, right? And some of these boxes exist in several instances in one installation, right? So this is pretty complex, and as a side note, this also means that we have more or less that number of developers in the project, in the working team, right? So this is a pretty complex system and project as well. So of course, you can logically simplify this system view, right? And one thing that I want to particularly point your attention to is that because there are several different sources of data, right? It's video, it's audio, it might be other sensors, other sensor data. So what is and at the same time, we really need to make a proper decision of what behavior is reaction to what. So you need to really make sure that you synchronize all these data sources in time, right? So this is one of the topics that we do. And nevertheless, as much as of course all the components are important for the system to work smoothly and correctly, two types of components are really important for this platform to be able to recognize and interpret those behaviors, right? So these are recognizers that I will talk about in a moment, and then the decision support service, right? So this is also the intelligence of the system. Now, the intelligence starts with recognizing the behavioral signals. So as I already said, this is recognizing facial expressions, this is recognizing gestures, and this is recognizing vocalizations, right? So these are the three types of behaviors that we need to recognize, and so that we of course need to build technology for that. So how it was organized? It was organized in such a way that the facial expression recognizer recognizes the facial expressions by regions, by face regions. So it looks separately at the eyes, at nose, mouth, and jaw. So this is separately, right? This is because it's very difficult to compare one smile of one person with PMD to another, and it's even more difficult to compare it to us, right? So this is very difficult. Their muscles are not working exactly like ours. So it's much more beneficial, much more effective to look at specific areas of the face, right? And that's how we do it, right? And in this picture here, you see that one other thing that we are doing when trying to let's say recognize what kind of facial expression you can see on the face of the user is we are looking at how visible this particular area, this particular region of face is. Because if it's not visible, then you cannot trust any sort of recognition here, right? So this is also an important factor, right? And once it is high enough, of course, this is then passed as recognized, right? So in this situation, you would have the eyebrows raised. Yes, in fact, they are. Eyes are widened. Not sure if it's visible under these lines, but yes, and mouth is wide open, right? So this is the three. Then you have the facial expression is concerned with all these three elements, and that's what is detected in this particular moment of time and passed on in the platform to other components. And the same you would go for gestures. Of course, this is a little bit different, but on a problem, but of course a little bit also similar. And again, this is recognized by body parts, right? So of course we are looking at the whole body posture, right? What happens with the body, but also then we are looking at what happens with particular body parts, right? Head, arms, hands, legs, and feet, right? So this is what we do. And again, visibility is important. So in this picture here, you see this girl laying on the floor, and you will see that the system is completely unsure, for example, about the feet, right, or about legs. So it doesn't see all the points, all the key points of these body parts. So it's not really completely sure about whether this is correct or not. And in fact, you see that while of course legs are in fact outstretched, you can tell that, but the feet are not one on another, right? So this is, you see that this visibility, this visibility parameter is important. Now, as for vocalization recognition, this is a different kind of problems, but I don't have to in this forum go into details of how you really do it on the on the, let's say, on the methodological part, because I've heard the same sort of techniques throughout these presentations that you are all using, that my colleagues in the project are using or have been using to come up with this component. So you see that this boy that I was talking about, he has these 7 well, meaningful, let's say, vocalizations that are more often found in him than the girl that you've seen on the slide before. She has a different set of vocalizations that she uses, right? It's totally different. Maybe some sounds might seem similar, but they in fact are, of course, their voices are totally different. So this is different. And well, I will try to run. I hope that you will be able to hear. What you will hear in this little clip is 3 different vocalizations from Jeremy. I'm not sure if all the 3 will be that easily detected by you in the first place, but this should be the specific breathing. You will maybe sometimes hear him breathe somewhat heavier, let's say, or more soundly. Then you will hear one sound will be very evident, and then he also does something like, let's say, close to what we will call maybe laughing, right? So you will also hear a teacher speaking Polish, but I hope that you will know what it is. Okay. Yes, so this is how it looks like. Of course, in this forum, I don't need to say that you have to deal with all kind of background, including the caregivers speaking, obviously. Now, the other part that we need to look at is the context, right? So all the situation that is happening around, and we need to follow that or try to follow that, because of course, to really know what happened, what is happening around, you would need to monitor the whole world. This is not, of course, possible. So you are looking at those things that we know that might influence, or we think that they influence the reactions of our target end users, right? And this goes from various types of sounds, like let's say you see here music. You might find here in this table some other maybe sounds. Then you would see people, various usually specific people, but maybe sometimes also people in general, some specific objects like toys or other objects, maybe some specific activities, right? So this is what might be inducing these positive or negative reactions of these people. One thing also that might be happening, sometimes we are able to really tell that, and that is actually what is happening with this boy that I was talking about. So we are able to, so he reacts to the calls. So you can also monitor things like temperature or I don't know, humidity or whatever else. So some people react. Some of these people react to these environmental circumstances or ambient situations as well. Now, so you do this, right? And now, if you come down to Jeremy, as I was saying, so this is what is the things that we know that are influencing his behaviors, right? So he likes cars, or more specifically, sound of cars, like racing cars. So his parents say that he watches car racing. He likes lights. He likes music, particularly jazz music. He likes other people and has several specific sympathies, like families and teachers. And he likes swinging on this special swinging, let's say, device swinger. And so this is a special activity, right? And then there are things that he dislikes. So cold is one thing that he really, really dislikes. And then what he doesn't like is that there are no other people attending to him, so no attention is put on him. So this is what he dislikes. So this is the things that you have to look at as an example to try to know about what is happening around this person, around this user, so that we can really make decisions. So again, so what you would do, you would try to recognize other sounds that are around the person, so some ambient sounds. You would try to recognize objects, right, like a ball or whatever else. You, as I said, might look at in ambient sensors like temperature, humidity, and so on. What you will also have is you would try to recognize other people, right? So first, that there are other people in the room, let's say, but also who that is, right? So this is one of the components in the system that is also there. So we are identifying people, and by the way, this is also a way for the primary end user, so the person with PIMD, to log in to the system, right? So once the system recognizes that this is the person that is in the room, and this is the person that is visible in the camera, so it allows this person to say log in, right? Sort of log in, and reconfigures itself with the models targeted towards recognizing and interpreting behaviors of this particular person. What you also will have as part of the context is any feedback from those applications, those assistive applications that consume the result of this platform activity, an act on behalf of the end user, right? So they are doing some actions, and they are supposed to provide feedback of what they did. Now, so once we have information about the behaviors, once we have information about the context, we need to put that together and make a decision, right, on behalf of the end user, right? So this is a decision about the further interaction with the surroundings or other people, right? So we are then interpreting all the data that are collected by all these recognizers and other, let's say, sensors as user intents. And this user intents, now we come back to this description of what non-symbolic interaction is, would contain information on the behavioral state of this user, so whether this user is pleased, displeased, or neutral to the situation, and or, because it might come together, but not necessarily. Usually it does not. It might be also a communication attempt of this user, right? So it might be demand, protest, comment, right? So this is the thing. And the other thing that is part of this user intent is what this behavioral state or communication attempt relates to, right? So the cost of this behavior is important, right? So you would have possibly as short as possible list of potential causes of this behavior, right? And then you can know why this person is displeased or what this person demands. And how does it work? It's a pretty complex problem. So we start with the thing is that we start with the expert knowledge. So there is an expert system inside this component based on what the caregivers familiar with this particular end user know about this end user, right? How they are interpreting the behaviors, right? So they are telling that, okay, this closed eyes and this particular vocalization together means that it is, I don't know, let's say displeasure, and so on. But of course, you are also looking into the data. And what is a special technique that we are using, because it's not so easy to find to really collect data on these behaviors. It's not like you cannot ask this person to be displeased or to show how they are protesting, right? You need to be able to come to this kind of situation. Then what we also have as an approach is we have this sort of active learning where the caregivers are asked to tell us whether this particular interpretation of the system was correct or not, right? So they can say, no, this was not correct, this was something else, and then this, or yes, this was correct. But the particular interesting is whether it says that it was not correct, right? So then we can add, and this in fact in the early experiments has improved the decisions. Now, okay, so the Insension platform is able to interpret the behaviors in the context of the situation that is happening, the behaviors of a person with PIND, as this person's intention to do something next. But the particular practical use of this is when this person can really do this thing that they want to do, right? So now, how do we apply this kind of technology in real life? And this is where we come to the application of this kind of solution. And this you would do, as I said, you probably have noticed this in the architecture. We have this notion of assistive applications, which are some, let's say, independent software and hardware components, right? So these are independent services, say, who have the objective of consuming this user intent. Because the goal of the Insension platform as such is to provide the information on the current needs of the end user to external applications which are capable of acting on behalf of this end user. Right? This is the goal if you take it from the engineering point of view, right? Okay, so it can get the platform can get this information and can give it to some other component. And in the project we are building, we actually have built those 3 example or pilot applications. They are based in what is really needed by the let's say what the caregivers were able to tell us. So the first one is communicator. So an application that allows, as you will hear in a moment, the person with PIND to tell about the current state, about the current needs to any other person. Then the media player, because people with PIND, they listen to a lot of music, they listen to audiobooks, they might watch or listen to TV, and a sort of smart room application, right? Which I will explain in a moment. So the communicator is an application which allows to provide, so let's say, or sort of translate the user intent into a let's say something like natural language message and send it to any other person, right? And this natural language message might be a text message or might be a pre-recorded audio message. Of course, these are not written down by the person with PMD, but these are written down by the caregivers that are working with this person, right? That's how it works. Now, the media player, this application, as I said, it reacts to the behaviors, to this user intents by playing specific, let's say, sounds, right? Usually that would be probably music, but it might be something else that, say, relaxes this person, right? So just like us, right? Of course, it must have the manual, let's say, mode that allows the caregiver to say no, it's enough for of the music for tonight. But what you also can imagine here, and we have done this kind of experiment, what you can do is you can connect this kind of media player. You can have one of these, let's say, playlists, not inside this application, but somewhere else, like in a system like Spotify. So you can imagine now suddenly a scenario where a person with this kind of disability can use Spotify, just like us. Well, just like us is, of course, just like us. Not exactly like us. We are pressing buttons. They are not pressing buttons, but they can use the music from this kind of services as well. Now, if you come to the smart room, so what we have done here is an application that allows to switch on or switch off various devices, right? That might be, as you already heard about Jeremy. So he likes lights, right? So he might be switching on some nice lights, right? A nice lamp, let's say, that he really likes. Or it might be a situation when he is cold and he is protesting against this cold, and he switches on a heater, right? So this is something that you have. And also in this we have kind of virtual devices, which is something more complex, but it's still, let's say, if you can imagine a toy that you could somehow control, I don't know, wirelessly, like, right? So you could switch this on wirelessly, but or even tell it to do something very specific, like specific dance, let's say. Now, so we can have multiple applications, right? And we can have a user intent and then these applications. So how to really decide of what to do, right? Because if I am sitting around in my room and I'm kind of bored, or I don't know, I don't like the situation that I'm sitting here, have nothing to do, then I could possibly select several things. I could, I don't know, listen to music, but maybe I could also, I don't know, switch something on, like, I don't know, a massager, or take a massage, with using a massaging device, right? So I can do various things, right? So you have to enable this person to also make sort of a decision. And we came up here with this mechanism that allows us to prioritize which application goes first, right? So the user intents are sent to the applications in the order of priority, defined by the caregiver, of course, on behalf of this person with disability. But these priorities mean that they are sent one after another. So until finally some of these applications accepts and informs the platform that yes, I will perform an action based on this user intent, right? So of course this is the situation. Now what you also have here is what you want to have is that you don't want these user intents to go unattended, right? So you would probably always like to have a situation that each user intent is noticed by applications, right? And something is done about it. So here we have the something which we call default application. So this is the application that has the lowest priority. So it will be the last one that receives the user intent only if others don't do anything with it. But it will surely receive it, and it will surely do something with it, right? Or it should do something with it. Now, two other things that we have introduced is that several applications, so like say 2 applications, could have the same priority, so they could receive the user intent at the same time, right? And both could in parallel have say, okay, we will do something with it. Sometimes it might be beneficial. And the other thing is that we can have the default application to always receive the user intent and always do something with it, right? So this also situates. Now, so just to show you how it really works. So here you have an example where we have 4 applications with the priorities, right, from the highest 5 to say something like 1, let's say, or default. Right, and we have this mode where the default application receives the intent only when it is handled, when it's not handled by any other application. So this mechanism works like this. So first, this is the user intent is sent to the application with the highest priority. Okay, it decides what to do with it. If it does not accept it, then it's sent to another application, and so on until one application says, here, no application has accepted this user intent for to do something with it, so the default application acts. Right? You can have the same situation where some other application consumes, right? So okay, application 4 consumes, it does something with it, nothing else happens, right? So that's how it works. And then in the second mode where the default application always receives, so it receives it right away and may do something with it, and then the mechanism goes on until to check whether other applications can do something with it as well, right? So this is how this mechanism works. Of course, it's not enough, because what you also have to do, you need to configure those applications to really act on, to really know what to do with the user intents that they are receiving. They may be really differing one from another, right? So you need to have sort of rules within these applications, within these assistive applications, to do actions, right? Like here in this communicator, depending on whatever this role is, right? Then a specific message, a specific action which is in communicator is sending a specific message to the caregivers is done, right? And what is also important, the rules are, let's say there is a sequence, right? So you can put again the priorities or importance, right? So first the user intent is checked against rule number 1, and so on until one of those are found as fitting the user intent. So what you configure as a rule, so what you need to do is you need to say to what this rule reacts, right? So what behavioral state or communication attempt or both it should react to, what is this? So what should be the cause of this, right? So if it is, let's say what we had a protest here, so if this is a protest against loud noise, right? So in this situation, then you do something, right? So you send a message, can you check whether the noise is disturbing, right? So this is what the caregiver receives, right? So this is how you configure these applications. This is for communicator. For, of course, for the smartphone would be to switching on, switching off, for maybe some time, even the specific devices, for media player playing a specific playlist. So that's how the system works. Now, what we also are checking within the project is we are checking whether we can enhance the interpretation results, and that we are checking in a study whether physiological response, whether monitoring physiological response and looking at it might increase the platform accuracy, because that's what the literature has suggested, right? There are several studies that say that you can find differences in this physiological response of people with this kind of disability depending on their emotions, right? So this is what we are doing, and we are doing this. The thing that we would like to have is contact-free monitoring. So a video-based heart rate and so on monitoring, right? So this is what we are trying to do. It's a really the big challenge and a separate research scientific problem in itself. But you can also try to do it with contact monitoring, which is something that everybody knows with the, say, wristbands. Nevertheless, the wristbands are not always accepted by people with PMD. Not all of them like this kind of devices. Plus, of course, the downside here is that you need to monitor the battery. Right? So this is also something that is not so. Yeah, it's less usable. Right? But this is what we are trying to do as well. Now, to conclude my talk, I would like to say why we are doing this. Of course, I talked about let's say the problem or how I would rather say challenge what we're trying to do. But are we really sure that this is what we want to do, right? So there have been some research questions that we have asked ourselves, right? The first is straightforward: can we really build this kind of system looking from the technological point of view, right? It seems that the answer is yes at this point. The second question would be, can we make the system smart enough to be doing this really accurately so that it can really accurately act on behalf of the primary user? Do we really know what this user wants, right? And of course, one of the questions that we are asking, would such a system, such an ICT system, really support people with PMD? Because nobody really tried anything like that before. So this is the first time we are doing this. But a real question that you are asking here is, once you have such a system, to what extent should such a system act on its own? Because it's an artificial intelligence system on behalf of a person that is really unable to control it at all, right? So this system is somewhere in the background and it's doing something. So this is the real question that we have in our heads all the time. And of course, the answer to this is that AI can really empower these people if done correctly. And this kind of system, this kind of AI system is actually something similar to systems, to tools like wheelchair that for people with motor impairment or white cane for people with visual impairment. It's just that it is a prosthesis of verbal communication for people with this kind of impairment, right? So this is what it is. So the answer is yes, we should do it, because if we don't, that we actually make a different decision for these people, that they are, because of the fact that they're unable to consent to use such a system, we would refuse them the possibility to benefit from the potential of the system and possibly reaching some sort of level of independence which they don't have today. Okay, thank you very much. This was all I wanted to say today.
Thank you, sir. Sir, that was a really amazing space, sir. So thank you very much for sharing your great knowledge with us. Now, house is open for discussion and question answer. Participants, kindly. Participants, do you have any queries? Kindly discuss with Dr. Misal, sir.
one query though. So AI indeed intriguing area now. So lots of applications are there. But one thing I found that the training process, so which actually takes much time before deployment. So how do we deal with that? Though we have now competitions, GPU competitions are there, but still, like in our case in India, we have that. We don't have that much facilities. So how do we deal with that? How we can really think about the implication and application in real scenario, like rural areas, village areas, especially what we have in India.
So, so there are two probably dimensions to your question. One is the system that I was talking about. In which case, of course, we need to train the system to work for a particular end user, because this particular end user, this particular person with PIND, would use different behaviors from any other, right? So you need to train. Of course, you don't need to really train the components responsible for recognizing facial expressions or gestures, because this is pretty straightforward, right? Those are corners of mouth up, so this is for everybody the same. So you just need to monitor the face. Now with vocalization, it's a little bit different, because you really need a number of instances, and we found that it's 30 to 40 is really something that with today's techniques is enough to reach a really good accuracy. So, but you need to collect this kind of instances. So if you go about displeasure or protest, this is not a situation that the caregivers would really like this person with disability to be in. So it's difficult, right? But as we heard yesterday from Bjorn Schuller, as he was saying, this is what we also are in this field here in this group. We are trying to do, that we can build an accurate sound recognition system or less instance of the sound, right? So this is also what we are trying to do. So of course there will be some training for this. Now the second dimension is, as I understood, maybe please correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that there are no really facilities in India or so on for AI. So of course, so I'm not sure if this is what you were asking about the I don't know, infrastructure for building artificial intelligence system.
For infrastructure, say in a rural area, if we want to deploy, we require that kind of infrastructure. Without that, we cannot deploy. And most importantly, for training also, so specific data will be required. So as we know that without huge amount of data, if we train, so obviously accuracy will be much low.
Yeah. So of course this challenge here that I was talking about is a real challenge, because as you can imagine, the number of these people, there is not so many of these people, and then they differ from each other. So nobody really knows whether there are any similarities between these people. Because if you take a city like Poznan that I live in, where I live, it's 600,000 people. So there is like 100, maybe 150 of people with PIMD in the city. So this is 600,000, and you have roughly a little bit over 100 people of population. That's the size of the population, and they differ from each other. So nobody really has a chance. No scientist has a chance to compare with these people with each other. So that's why you go the more individual way, right? And it takes time, of course, to launch such a system for this particular person. But you have to always think in this situation that you train the system for a particular person. Otherwise, it's impossible. Of course, we are trying to do it as fast as possible, So that's why the expert system, so where there are expert rules, so you can start making some decisions right away. Let's say we are trying to make it better with time, and then the vocalization system. Well, okay, it will not recognize everything from the first day, probably, but yeah, we will try to do.
And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Participants, any other queries?
Yes, may I have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Sorry, I missed the talk. I overslept, but I'm curious. Did you manage to deal with persons with aphasia who had difficulties to express their opinions and to speak at all?
So we are dealing only with people who don't use symbols, right? So this is what we are dealing with. I don't know if that answers your questions, right? Your question.
Thank you.
Any other queries? Any other queries, participants? I think so. No more questions from the participants. So thank you so much, sir. We are looking forward. Yes, sir. So we are looking forward for your same support in our future events as well, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Participants, now we can have a short break. We'll assemble here at 11:25 a.m. for our next keynote talk. Our next keynote speaker is Professor Aurobindo Rotre from IIT Kharagpur. Thank you.
Good morning, Professor Rotre. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, namaskar.
Sir, namaskar, sir.
Namaskar.
Sir, welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, we will start your session shortly, sir.
No problem. I am waiting. I am just muting my mic and video.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Anupam sir?
Yes, I am there. Good morning.
Okay.
Okay. This question.
Can I proceed, sir? Or
Yes,
Vindu,
yes.
sir?
Proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Welcome back to the second day of third keynote session of FRSM 2020. Now, let us have the pleasure to listening to the honorable and great speaker, Professor Aurobindo Rotre from IIT Kharagpur, India. It is my privilege to introduce Professor Aurobindo Rotre. He is working as professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Associate Dean Infrastructure at IIT Kharagpur. His research interests includes signal processing, embedded systems, computer vision, machine learning with applications to human monitoring and industrial diagnostics, etc. He has 100 journal research publications, including 15 IEEE and 15 other leading journals, 100 publications in conference proceedings, and 10 patents and 5 startups extensively in the above areas till date. Professor Aurobindo Rotre has guided 25 PhD scholars and 25 are ongoing till date. He has project collaboration with Samsung, General Motors, Airbus, DRDO, ONGC, SAIL, GAIL, and many more. His personal interest includes meditation and conducting relaxation exercise. Now, may I request you, sir, to kindly start your keynote session. Over to Professor Aurobindo.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. A very good morning to all of you.
Thank you, sir.
I am going to present the work, primary work of one of my PhD student who recently completed her PhD in speech processing. I work in signal processing in general and sometimes applications. So I am going to present about, I think I get around 45 minutes or so, 30 minutes or 40 minutes, how much I get. So whatever, 45 minutes.
You can continue, sir. You can continue. You can take your time, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So we can have some questions in between. You can chart the question here so that I can take on the questions. So is my slide visible to all of you?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk about this assessment of aggression and conflict in dyadic communication. So basically a work which has been conducted by Subhasmita Sahu and my name is Aurobindo Rotre. So, aggression is a hostile behavior, everybody knows it, which can be expressed in speech, especially during this pandemic where we have taken everything on an online mode, and this becomes more relevant. That means during a negotiation process, by monitoring the speech, it is possible to get a warning when we are becoming more aggressive, or we can get a behavioral warning, which might destroy many relationships. And similarly, in a negotiation, it can be used as an indicator to tell you that how your conflict or aggressive nature is rising, so that you can control yourself, and it can be also used for many other applications. So having said the motivation, so just a minute, okay. So what I am going to present is the aggression model, which has, there is a person and situation, and that is social encounter which is involved. So all together, there is a scientific process which goes on, which is basically cognition, arousal, and affect, from which you make a decision process, which is sometimes you do it consciously, sometimes it goes to a subconscious state, and which gets an impulsive action, and this impulsive action makes a social impulse which might generate unpleasant situations. So this is a whole loop. It goes in circles and circles. You create an impulse which comes back manifold, and you get affected. You affect the society, and this is going through the speech. So speech is one of the most important things of communication. So especially during this pandemic, you don't see me, I also don't see you, but you can listen to me. I can also listen to you. So therefore, to detect aggression, we have used something called an inverse modeling, which I will say. So you have speech. So we have this lungs, and we have a vocal cord. So by means of glottis opening, we can blow air into the vocal cords and modify it, and this glottal pulse goes to vocal tract, and you basically generate the speech. So this whole speech production process comes from lungs, then vocal tract, and from vocal cords there will be a glottal pulse, and this glottal pulse goes to the vocal tract. So glottal pulse is like a wavelet. This wavelet goes to a vocal tract, which can be modeled like a few stage filter, multiple stages having multiple areas, and this becomes a kind of, there is a reflection and transmission. As a result, the speech is produced, and you can have neural control over the vocal cord as well as the vocal tract. So to achieve this, so what we have done is something called glottal inverse filtering. So we have two things here. That is, we are from the speech, we are basically trying to figure out this one, the glottal pulse, how it looks like, and the shape of the vocal tract. So these two we are identifying. After having identified these two, the shape of the vocal tract and the glottal pulse, then we can classify a speech in a much better way. Because whenever there is a glottal pulse, you have less control over it. The emotions directly affect your air pressure, and sometimes we don't open the vocal tract, we keep it inside. That means we don't express our emotions, but sometimes you do express. So more control is on this, but there is very less control on the air pressure. So therefore, if you find out the vocal tract parameters as well as the glottal pulse, both together can have a better representation of the emotion. So therefore, now, so we'll, first of all, the first phase of this is glottal inverse filtering. So what is glottal inverse filtering? That means to reconstruct the glottal pulse. Glottal pulse and vocal tract, they interact with each other to generate speech. So therefore, so we have to revert to this model. What happens in this is the glottal flow model, then there is a velocity, then vocal tract model, both they convolve each other, then finally it comes to the lips. In the lips there is a radiation model, and finally the speech is here. So the signal processing happens, glottal flow model input gets convolved with the vocal tract, then gets convolved with the lip radiation, then you get a speech. Lip is just a derivative. Lip, if you open or close. So these are just opening and closing. It is like a derivative. So like, delta n minus delta n minus 1. So this can be simply modeled by derivative. And this will be a reflection and transmission coefficients. Sometimes you can just do it by reflection or transmission or both. Then there is this glottal pulse. So to do this, so we refer to this glottal flow, glottal pulse to having a opening phase and there is a closing phase. This is called Ligenkranz LF model. So the spelling is Ligenkranz-Fant. So these two guys, so they developed this model, which is widely accepted. So there are two modes of glottal pulse. One is glottis opening, then glottis closing. When there is an opening, amplitude opens, then it is closing. Then so it goes negative, and then so that means this is a derivative of the glottal pulse. Actual glottal pulse will open, glottis will open, then close. So when they open and close, the close suddenly, so the derivative looks like this. It will increase fast, then the derivative will become negative, and then it will become 0. So that is opening and closing, and this is known as the return phase. So it is a two-phase model, mode 1 and mode 2. One is the open phase, one is the closed phase. So it's a derivative of the glottis opening. So which can be modeled by this equation. I'm not getting into details of the equation. I've shared the slides. You guys can look at the slides. You can also look at the papers which I'm going to show you after some time. So using this model, so we have only speech and we have this glottal pulse model, as you can see, which you have in mode 1 and mode 2. These are the equations by means of which we can describe the glottal pulse model. Then use the forward difference function. Then after that, you assume a concatenated tube model of the vocal tract. So this, because if you look at this, you have the vocal tract model, your speech here. This is just a derivative. So you can reconstruct the, so whole thing is derivative. So you know this basically by this derivative is the speech signal. So everything, so you know this. So then this is just a derivative. So you know the model of this, you know the speech. You have to find this. Unless you assume this, you cannot find this. So the first thing is you have to assume certain vocal tract model. So the vocal tract model which is assumed here is a multi-stage concatenated model which has got different areas. It is a vocal tract is not just a cylinder, it is a cylinder with varying area. So you can make this, small cylinders which are connected with each other, and there is a reflection. This is the transmission coefficient of the area, and this is the reflection coefficient. So both together makes one stage, and there are multiple stages. So glottal pulse basically goes into each of the stages, gets convolved there, and finally it comes out to the lips. So what we did is we did an estimation algorithm. So the estimation is basically estimating the area of each of the stages, and then because these are also unknown, so area of each of the stages and the glottal pulse values, so theta n. So both together makes a extended Kalman filter model we have put, and finally we estimated the glottal pulse. So we estimated from the speech. So as you can see, from a vowel, basically the glottal opening happens during the vowel, not during the consonant. So during the vowel, we extracted the vowel A, E, I, O, U like that, and from this we reconstructed the glottal closing instance and also glottal opening instance, GCI and GY, as you can see, and the glottal pulse. We also got the derivative of the glottal pulse we could reconstruct. So this is done by estimating the GCI, GOIs, glottal closing instance and glottal opening instance, then initialize, then estimate. So finally you get these figures. So that means you know the shape of the vocal tract and you know the glottal pulse, the nature of the vocal pulse. But the most important thing is once you know the shape of this and shape of this, you have to also find out the pressure distribution here, because pressure distribution in the vocal tract is most important in characterizing a particular emotional arousal. So to do that, again, we do the next thing is to estimate the pressure distribution. So the air pressure distribution. So the air pressure distribution can be computed. I'll go to the next slide before doing this. So this air pressure distribution can be computed from the flow of the air, which you just find out, and there is an area. So the flow rate and area, if you divide, you can find out the pressure distribution. So flow by area, so flow rate by area. So from which you could plot for a particular consonant like vowel, vowel like A, this is the amplitude versus time of the pressures at a particular stage. And there are multiple sections, like the tube has 44 sections here. In each section, you have a distribution. So this is a 3D plot. So the third dimension gives you the pressure. So you can find at the 40th, there is a pressure which is high for this A. So you can see this is the whole pressure distribution with time. This is the time, pressure, and the section. So so the pressure distribution in the vocal tract. So this is one. Then we again do the vocal tract shape estimation. So vocal tract shape, again, we again divide into multiple. So there is the shape estimation here, the pressure estimation, but here is the shape estimation. In the shape estimation, we found out the reflection coefficients. RK is equal to AK plus 1 minus AK by AK plus 1. Then from which we change the formulation a little bit, and this is the glottal floor state equations again. So from which we have a dual estimation problem. That means there will be two Kalman filters which will feed them back to back. So one is for the vocal tract, one is for the glottal pulse. So both will feed back to back. This is called a dual estimation problem. The details are there in the paper. So from which we could figure it out, the different vowels. So there the vowel was known, but here the vowel was unknown. So in the vowel is unknown, we could find out the different pressures and different areas for different vowels. For example, U, but. So U is the one which is the vowel here. But A is the one which is vowel here. Then E is in the bed, then foot. So all these from which you can find out with the tube number. There is 40 tube numbers and what is the area, different areas. So this shows the tube number and the area in the tubes. So we estimated the pressure there and we estimated the area here. Now the complete estimation is available with us. The estimation is the area of different section of the vocal tract, the pressure distribution in the vocal tract, and third is the glottal pulse, which is being produced after the glottal opening because of the lungs pressure and the vocal cord. So vocal cord produces this glottal pulse. So there are different methods. So we have proposed one dual estimation method. There could be some LP based method, linear predictive coding. So we found out different estimations here. So we figure it out from, so we can take X-rays to find out the exact pulse instant. There are also data sets which are available. So the exact actual thing is this black thing. It can be found out by X-rays. It can be also found out by EGG machines. There are EGG machines. So the actual opening of the vocal tract can be found out from this. And these are the one which has been estimated. And similarly, by using LP-based methods, which is there. So our method is supposed to be little better than the LP-based method. So now what happens, the vocal tract does not remain fixed. It changes dynamically. Every 23 milliseconds, you can say you are able to control the vocal tract. So that is the stationarity period of the speech. If you analyze the speech, generally people say around 23 to 25 milliseconds, your speech is stationary because vocal tract does not change. The moment vocal tract does not change, whatever is the input that goes on convolving with the vocal tract, you get the speech. Therefore, 23 to 25 milliseconds is the time where the vocal tract is not supposed to change, or you don't have much neural control over that. However, beyond that, it will change. So therefore, you have to have dynamically changing vocal tract. So to do so, we did about 6 seconds of speech, from which, using the proposed method, we found out the area of different sections. And this is LP-based method. This is our method. So this method gives you different areas for I and U. That means you are actually saying I, then U over 6 things, and it is able to track it. And this is the shape estimation with time. It's a dynamic variation of vocal tract. So using these two, so that means what I have done till now, we have done a basic, very simple thing. You have done an inverse model. So in the inverse model, we have got 2 channels. One is this glottal, this glottis, which opens and closes. It has a certain shape. It rises, the glottis opens and finally comes down. It has 2 phases. One is open phase, one is closed phase. And we have taken the derivative because leap is modeled as a derivative. So the derivative we apply the glottis. So in a linear system, you can change the derivative, whether leap or glottis. You can find the derivative anywhere. I'll just go back again. Those who are taking down things, I'll just tell them for a linear system. So this is the derivative model which you see here. This derivative has been gone to glottal flow model. So this is the derivative of glottal flow model, then vocal tract. So we can take back and forth for a linear system. So therefore, derivative of glottal flow we have already found out, and the vocal tract we have found out 2 things. One is the pressure distribution and shape of the vocal tract from the speech. So it is an inverse model. These 2 are convolving with each other. We did deconvolution using a dual estimation process, and you have 3 things now: the glottal opening instant, glottal closing instant, then the pressure distribution of the vocal tract, and the opening of the vocal tract, that means area of different sections. So this is the vocal tract areas and the pressure distribution. Everything is found out. So once it is found out, then the next is how it is. So this is supposed to be capturing our behavior like aggression, etc. So therefore, we wanted to find out the aggression in voice using glottal inverse filtering. So what did you do? So what we did is this. We first get the audio clips from interviews. Generally for television interviews, sometimes the anchor makes the political leaders very aggressive. So we picked out those aggressive clips, and from these aggressive clips, we have evaluators which are blind. That means they don't understand that language. For example, we have South Indian evaluators for Hindi language. So these evaluators are neutral to the political views. They listen to this and they ranked the aggression. So we did it very carefully with due diligence so that there is no bias. So we have taken 3 subjects, 2 political leaders, 1 anchor. Each clip is 15 seconds to 1 minute. Then put into 4 randomly 10 clips each, and then you have evaluators who rated them. Then this higher rank becomes aggression, and the low rank becomes calmness, calm speech. So using this, we applied this glottal inverse filtering. So what did we do? So the aggression features, as you can see, we have plotted by the estimation process. These are speech. So we have estimated the glottal closing instant, glottal opening instant, then the sections of the vocal tract, the pressures, etc. So what we found is this. So this is the pressure distribution at different sections because of the calm speech. As you can see, I'll just little bit expand it, which will expand. So this is the calm speech. This gives you higher pressure. So this is very regular. It is rising, then falling down, then it is becoming normal. So that means there is a rise in the vowel. Of course, you are telling the vowel, so there is a pressure which is higher here, then it comes down. So that means it's a very calm speech. Once I say it, it is done. The sound comes out. There is no reflection, nothing. But in this case, as you can see, this is calm speech, and this is for aggressive speech. In the aggressive speech, you will find the pressure becomes, corrugated. That means it rises, falls, again rises, falls. In the so this rise and fall, which is not so calm speech. So this is coming from the aggressive behavior. So this aggressive behavior also can be found out from pitch and other things. But pitch will be personal dependent. It will vary from person to person. But this vocal tract shape will not be, the change in vocal tract shape model will not be person dependent. So this is the calm speech. This is aggressive pitch, which is very much apparent from these figures. So what did you do? So for detecting aggression, if you want to make a software in the cell phone, or you want to make an application with your Google Meet or some kind of Meet, then the audio comes in. Then you have to first divide into voiced and non-voiced speech. That means the voice and non-voiced speech can be separated, and there are very standard methods to do voice speech from non-voiced speech. Frequency domain methods are there. Energy thresholding is there. Once you detect the vowel, then classify the vowels. So after the classification of vowels can be A, I, O, U, can be done by HMM, which is a standard. Then you find out the aggressive, put it in the aggression model. Then finally you detect the aggression. So what we did is this following. You can have a look on this. This is on an audio clip. Then vowel identification, feature extraction, classification of vowels. So then it is HMM also can classify the turning vowel each type. Then majority voting, which gives you the aggressive or calm behavior. So you are using. So once you have HMM for different vowels, different aggression models are there. A, E, I, O, U. So from the different aggression models, you pick up the aggression model here and match with the vowel. Then you can vote it out and find out somebody's aggression. So using this, finally, so our result is very good. The confusion matrix is almost like 95% to 92%, which is excellent. And we have these features. We have got accuracy like 93% or something like that. So it is working very nicely. So now using this, whether you can, so this is what you know about aggression. That means this is only one person, or one guy is speaking. But suppose there are two people who are speaking, dyadic conversion, like negotiation or some kind of discussion, conversation, etc. So in that case, is it possible to find out what is known as conflict? So conflict is one which controls many things. For example, controls the negotiation, controls the relationship, etc. So can you have a software which will be sitting at your end and listening to you, maybe in the cell phone or so, which will tell you, yes, this is the conflict, you should stop now. Or the aggression is there, so you should stop now. So this is kind of early learning, can you do it? So we did it for dyadic, that means for two persons which are speaking with each other. For dyadic conversations, we try to figure out what is conflict. So what did we do? So in this case, we have to first identify who is speaking, speaker 1 and speaker. So there will be three things. One, the speaker 1 is speaking alone, then speaker 2 is speaking alone, or both are speaking. So that means there will be overlapping also. So there will be detection of speech of speaker 1, then speaker 2, and each of the speakers will be processed for aggression detection. And the overlapping region also has to be found out. If there is too much overlap and too much aggression in either one of them, then you can easily say it is a conflict, and you can infer that the conflict is arising. So to do so what we have done is this. So we have to find out the overlap speech. So overlap speech can be found out by various methods, like you have got this spectral features like NFC, MFCC, etc., time domain features like RMS, LP, etc. So all together, if you append together, you can find out a vector, a feature based. You can use also deep learning nowadays. You can use convolutional network, etc., to identify the overlapping, etc., which is easy to do. So from this, you can find out the overlapping of the speech. So overlap is done. So that means there is overlap is done. And then after overlap is removed, you have to identify the speakers, who is speaking. So to identify speaker, there are standard speaker identification algorithms. So first you identify the overlapping and also both speakers, single speaker and single speaker. So from this, using support vector machine and all these features, like 15 features which you found out, we can easily, it's a binary problem, whether overlapping or non-overlapping. So we could figure out the overlapping period of the speech and non-overlapping period of the speech. After that, each of the speaker has to be again found out which speaker it is. There are speaker 1 and speaker 2. So you have to do a speaker identification next. So then speaker diarization or speaker diarization means by separating these two speakers. Then so you have to classify each frame. So we have classified into 20 millisecond frames, and each frame you find out whether it is speaker 1 or speaker 2. So to find out speaker 1 and speaker 2, you can use several features. HMM is one of the very nice feature. You can also use other frequency domain and other LPC features. So you have used NF, MFCC and etc. So once you do this, each speaker is separated. So first the overlapping region is separated, then each speaker is separated, then each speaker will be subjected to the aggression analysis. So from this, you can figure it out whether speaker 1, speaker 2, and speaker 1. From this, you can find out which is aggressive, which is less aggressive, and the overlapping, including the overlapping region. So you can perhaps find out whether there is a conflict or not. So from this, you can have a annotation of the complete speech. Like I am speaking with you, you are speaking. So the whole speech will be recorded, and there is a conflict annotation. Conflict annotation means, for example, one speaker is speaking, his speech is calm. Then other speaker is speaking, calm, then overlap, then aggression. If there is overlap, aggression multiple times, you can say there is a conflict. So that's what we have done. You can see in the next slide, where you have found out a Mahalanobis distance from the segments. We found out the speaker 1, speaker 2, etc. Then once you know the speakers by using this Mahalanobis distance, then we have this aggression behavior by annotating the speech. Then you have got this one speaker, aggressive speech, the non-aggressive speech, then there is conflict like this. So once you do the aggression, you can see this is the coding which you do. Calm, then speaker 2, calm. Then speaker 1, aggression, then calm, then overlap, then like this, if you do overlap, aggression, then it can be led to a conflicting situation. So this is what we did. The summary, in summary, you can say there is a continuous speech and there is a overlap speech, Then there is a speaker diarization, then aggression detection and conflict. So these are the references. Okay, you can see these are some of the papers which I'll share. There are 5, 6, 7 references of this, which has been done by Subhasmita, plus our thesis has a lot of references. So I'll just share up the papers. You can have a look at this. So this is one paper which is published in IEEE. It has an audio speech. You can download that, or I can send it upon request. So this says the novel method of glottal inverse filtering. So you can see this method, how he has divided into concatenated tune model, and how he has fit in the estimation problem. From the estimation problem, how he solved it. Okay. So this is a glottal derivative, glottal pulse derivative. This is not total pulse, this is a derivative glottal pulse. Then finally, so this CKF model is done. So this paper you can see is published in IEEE. So with different format frequencies, he has found out. Finally, the low pitch, high pitch, everything is analyzed. So this is one paper which you can see where there is an accuracy of glottal pulse derivative estimation. So there is one more paper on aggression detection. You can see detecting aggression in voice using inverse filter speech filters. So this has been published again in IEEE Affective Computing 18. So you can have a look at this. So there are a lot of future scopes of this work. The conflict paper has not been yet published, so it's still there. So again, it's a dual estimation problem. And after dual estimation, find out the pressure distribution, as you can see here. Okay. So here I come to the end of the lecture. So you guys can ask any questions. If I can answer the questions, otherwise I will answer you later.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your profound knowledge sharing with us, sir. Now the house is open for discussion and question answer. So participants, if you have any query, kindly discuss with sir.
Is there a participant attending, or they have just joined and not listening?
Participants,
Hello, sir.
if you have any query, kindly.
So the participants are there or they are not there. That is what my question. Sometimes, I take the classes, I make the video on. Because you are making so much effort to arrange this, people should switch on the video to listen to it. That should be the case.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a nice talk, sir. Thank you, sir. It was a nice talk.
No, somebody, yeah. Thank you, sir. Can you? I can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir, I have no question. It is a nice talk. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Could I have some just comment on the performance of the method?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Kindly, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to know some performance. Performance is good. How is good?
Yeah, the performance has been compared. I will show you another. Actually, the detailed presentation I'll show you. Just a minute. Just give a second. I'll just show you. Just give me a second. Thank you for the question. I have not included that slide because of shortage of time. I will just do that.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir. So you have discussed about discussion between two people, but sometimes when we have in a news type of thing, we have discussion where there are multiple speakers with an anchor with it. So in that situation, how will this model work?
I will take this question first. Let me answer the question here. I got a question from.
Yes, sir. Professor KKC.
Yes.
Sorry.
I'll just take that question, then I'll get back to you.
Okay, sir.
So, Shar, you can see there are certain performances here. There are lots more performances. So, where we could detect about aggression with 95% accuracy, and with this model, and we have other features also, as you can see here. So, where we got the pressure distribution features, which are our proposed features, which is giving about 93.5% accuracy. That is for one aggression detection. So, we have also other performance metrics which we have done. It is there in the paper. You can have a look at these performance features. So these are some of the plots which can give you a performance idea. So these are this black one is the actual area which is found out by X-ray, and this one is our proposed method. this green, etc., with different SNRs. And this is the method which is there already called LP-based methods, which is not good at all. So our performance is much better. So it is there also in these two articles, which you can have a look on these articles. So there are other performance measures also. We have already created certain correlation coefficients or something like that, which I have not put here, but those are there in the papers. Okay. Any other question? Second question, sir.
Dalendra sir, kindly ask your questions.
Sir, usually in discussion hour, for example, in news channel, we have multiple speakers with anchor. So in those cases, how we suppose it, sir?
Yeah, so that means the classification problem will not be two class, it will be a multi-class classification. So that means if there are 3-4 speakers, you have to identify that speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, speaker 4. So that is also possible. You can do that. So speaker 1, so you have to cluster speaker 1 as one, speaker 2 as another, speaker 3 as another. Then each speaker's behavior you have to identify as aggression, calm, etc. Then overlapping periods you have to adjust. Then finally figure it out that whether there is a conflict.
Okay, sir.
Participants, any more questions? Kindly. Any questions, please? So I think so. There is no questions.
If there are questions, you can email me. I will try to answer, or I will try to give it to Subhasmita. So we can answer it together. You can have a look at those publications if you want to work in that line, or you want to. So this is a product which you are building, which will be actually on your cell phone or something, which will watch you who are speaking, especially during the online conversations. It can warn you against any unpleasant situations. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We are looking forward towards in support in our future event as well, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So, authors are requested to be ready with their PPT for the technical session 3 by 12:45. So, have a nice day. Thank you.